Aaron, you on the mic?
Yeah, yeah. That was very well done.
God damn, it was some good ass stuff. And also, I don't know where it's coming from, but thanks to that intro, I'm now getting served up ads for menstrual products, which is, I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if it's Alexa. I don't know if Google's reading my DMs. I don't know what the fuck is going on. But that's how that shit work, I guess. Anyway, we got one hell of a card. We wanted to go super hard on this one just to let y'all know we have no intention of stopping any Caliburst, any of this shit when Strive drops. We're gonna keep holding it down for Rev 2 as long as we got people to play Rev 2. We're gonna be holding it down. We're gonna be running the events and keeping people going. Right? I don't want to see y'all. I don't care who plays Strive, whatever. I'll fuck with it. I don't want to see y'all decaying. I want to see your meticulously crafted Exerd characters start to gather dust, start to get creaky because you're not playing the game no more. So we're definitely going to create as many opportunities as possible for y'all to play some Rev 2. But we wanted to make sure that we are welcoming Strive onto the scene by getting one motherfucking banger of a card. So we got 5 matches for y'all. Of course, we got CT versus Daymendou. We got GC Yoshi versus Effortless. But we also got Uppercat versus One Bin, Philjo 5000 versus Espada, and Sturban versus Gage JK. So let's start there. What do you think the people need to know about Sturban and Gage?
Okay, so the thing they need to know about Sturban and Gage is these are definitely two guys that we see grind it out all the time. So if you are on the NorCal Anime Discord, you will see
Yep.
both of these guys looking for games every single time, right? You get that ad GG Exerd, and you know what time it is. It doesn't matter what time it is. It's time for Guilty Gear.
All
You're at
hours of the
work, don't
day.
matter. Exactly. You're eating lunch, it don't matter. It does not matter.
Morning
And
gear, lunchtime gear, tea time gear, evening gear, midnight gear. Goddamn.
absolutely, the Midnight Carnival, they say. So the thing about these two, I definitely feel like they're both very aggressive players. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the kind of how they interact with each other. I think both of these two are definitely on the unconditionable side. I definitely know that Gage pretty well known for loving that flash kick.
Mm-hmm.
Sturban pretty well known for also pressing on wake up too. So it'll be very interesting. And like we mentioned already, right? They are absolutely always looking for games. These two have clashed in multiple um, different tournaments. Not just like ones
Yep.
we host, right? Like they showed up to Mild West. They are always looking for games, and this is the kind of like this is the kind of mentality and kind of thing we want, right, in our community, right?
Yep.
We love to see our people who start off as like beginners just like hungry to improve each time, and like Gage definitely has done extremely well with the Leo, has gotten
Gage went
I
from
want to say gotten top 3 a
graduating
couple
beginner
times, right?
bracket to was it second place at intermediate the subsequent month? It was
Yeah,
second or third place. That almost never happens. I think the person
yeah.
who got closest to doing that was Philjo, and I want to say Philjo got third in that intermediate bracket. Like,
Yeah, I think so too. And it's yeah, like it's all of right. And then it's also like Mild West, right? Top 2 at a Mild West.
mm-hmm.
Same with Sturban, right? Like these two just are always hungry for games, and it's really great to see like that fire in our newer people, right?
Yep. And the fact is that I would expect for both of them, like there are a couple Sin players, there are a couple Leo
Yeah.
players. In addition to
Yeah.
running into each other, they've probably seen other people play the matchup or played against different versions of those characters, right? You got
Right.
Ghost Deer, you got One Bin,
Mhm.
uh, like you got
You got
obviously you got
Jigs, you got
Jigs on
Tom
Leo,
Tom, yep.
you got Popo Ring, you
Yep.
got Tom Tom.
Yep. And like we always say, right? These characters are different depending on who's like piloting them.
Mm-hmm.
So, of all the people we've just mentioned, I would say none of them play like these two, right? So, it's not right. It's not just the character matchup. We don't really have to talk too much about the character matchup. Like Leos will tell you all day they hate this matchup. All right, they hate finding Sen, but you know really doesn't matter, right? Because sometimes you really just need to like when Leo gets in your head, it's rough, right? It doesn't matter how bad the
Mm-hmm.
matchup is on paper. So this is gonna be in a lot of ways this is supposed to be like the irresistible force and the movable object, but in reality these two are both like irresistible forces. They're just gonna clash into each other, and we're gonna see who comes out on top on this one.
One of the things that interests me about this matchup in particular is, Sturban's been around for a little while, kind of in and out of the scene until really getting into it lately. But Sturban's coming off of a dub
Yeah,
in his last Caliburst performance. Gage has actually never played a show match before, so at the
right,
very least, Sturban has some experience like preparing for one of these,
exactly.
finding training partners, like going through the match review process, stuff like that. It's going to be really interesting to see like what Gage's preparation is like and whether it pays off big.
Right,
But yeah, this is
exactly.
going to be a slobber knocker of a fight.
Yeah, Sturban is now 1-1 in Daisuke's backyard, and this is this is how it goes, right? When we're watching
Yep.
Street Beefs, we see the person who's actually played. You're like, oh, I don't know, right?
Yeah.
But you never know. First time, we'll see what happens for Gage.
And shout outs to Gage for stepping up on this, because actually originally we had set up, I had reached out to Denim, but Denim was unfortunately unable to make this card. Shout outs to Denim though. The moment we can get you back in the mix, you just let us know and we'll get a match for you, because it's always super fun to watch Denim. And Gage stepping in here, getting ready with about, I think, about maybe a little bit more than a week's notice. Like, you love to see it. You love to see that kind of that readiness, that enthusiasm. It will take you places. Hell
A
yeah.
desire to
That's
get
right.
better. Yeah,
You gotta want it. All right.
exactly.
Next up, we got Phil Joe 5000 versus Espada. Again, two players who have been pretty active, not only in locals but recently in Caliburst, right?
Yeah,
Espada is coming off of probably the most impressive loss I've ever seen in
yeah,
Caliburst, right? Like a super close loss against Kevitog. Kevitog actually said that he expected Espada to win it too for this month's May Caliburst, which is fucking sick. Um,
yeah,
and so I saw that. I was like, all right, there's no way we can let Espada lose this momentum. Like, let's give him another shot. Phil
yeah.
Joe, always game, always ready to go. And I think had probably been kind of eagerly waiting for another shot at Caliburst, because I think it'd been a month or two since he played last.
Yeah, it's been a little bit since he played Denim. So Phil is currently 1-0 in Daisuke's backyard over Denim in Phil's debut.
Mm-hmm.
Spada 1-1, defeated Learn in the Rivals card, and then, like you said, it was a very close mirror match. And this is the thing about Spada
Oh
that
God,
really impressed me.
I forgot to mention to people that I started the that I added the audio soundboard on.
But yeah, so the thing about Spada that really impressed me for the May edition was that
Hold up one sec, because it's drowning you the fuck out. Let me see if there's a way to turn this off. Okay, there we go. Sorry, Gems, not right now.
we'll do
The
that.
soundboard is godlike, though.
I'm glad it works. I got a lot of stuff. Yeah, no. So the thing that really impressed me about Espada was he really prepared it. He took that match extremely seriously, right? He sought out mirror match, so he went with Sakabato to play the mirror to get a little bit more comfortable in the mirror, and I think that was the thing that really threw Kev off his game, right? Was
Mm-hmm.
like we knew Kev the was definitely the more you know proficient with his character, but when Espada really like knew how to fight May, it really like changed up a lot of things, and he came extremely close, right?
Yep.
And this one's gonna be interesting because Phil's been kind of MIA for a little bit recently, right? Like Phil was at basically every tournament that we were hosting, right? And Phil's um, one of those guys that like we had show up to beginners online only, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then did pretty well in intermediate online, and then occasionally you would see Phil online just in random lobbies, but kind of disappeared for a little bit. So it's really good to have Phil back in the fold here, back in the mix. And this is the interesting thing about this, right? This is very chaos versus order, right? And the thing that is going to be really interesting about this is, we all know Mays love to jump, right? They have really good, strong air buttons, right? But I gotta say, Phil's got to be like top like 3 in the region for like the ability to air throw people. It's so like always on point, right? And this is a character that really benefits from like anti-airs in general, right? Not just the 6Ps, right? But the air throws, you get a lot of reward off air throws, and it's going to be really interesting to see how Espada reacts to this, right? How he plays around that.
Yeah, and one of the things with Phil in particular is he benefits extremely heavily from prep time. This dude is a prep time machine. I think you're right that he hasn't been hitting up as many tournaments, but he has still been playing the game. And this dude wakes up like early every morning to lab shit before work. So all he needs is a target. All he needs is a focus to lab shit, and then boom, he's off to the races. Which means that every single time we see him, he could be completely different. He might be coming up with some new jutsus and shit. At this point, both Espada and Phil have pretty solid work routines, and so I'm super excited to see how this match plays out. Not just because of the characters, but because of the players.
Right. And the interesting thing about this is, we do have Venoms and Mays in our region. But again, they do play very differently, I feel.
Yep.
So Espada obviously knows Takase. They are good friends, both SAC locals, right? And then we have Kev, like we mentioned, as a possibility for Phil if wants to go down that route. But maybe Kev is like, yeah, no, maybe I won't play you, right? It's like I gotta look out for my fellow May player, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this will be interesting, right? This is going to be very interesting. And Espada also, we got to give him a lot of credit too. A lot of top 3s recently also in our intermediate practice, right? Like he was one of the guys that graduated online, and then he's taken the ball and he's ran with it, right? Losing only to like I think Aetherbead in the most recent one been in Aetherbead, and then the previous was like Gage and Jigs, right? So. He's been no slouch.
Yeah. And like you said, he's been super consistent in bracket. Like I've been seeing this dude in Wednesday night fights pretty much every week. When he, in addition to keeping up with Tag and Battle, which shout outs to Tag and Battle, they still run their monthlies, dope as fuck. It's his consistency has only continued to pay off. He's only continued to get better at this game. So this one is going to be a banger. Like I could see this going 2-2 right down to the wire. I could also see one of them just being way better prepared and the other unable to adapt in time. It's going to be wild.
Right. And he's going to come out swinging, right? Weiner's on deck no matter what.
All right. Next up we have I see chat getting ahead of ourselves trying to make Noah pick favorites. Shame on y'all. We got Uppercat versus One Bin.
Yeah. So, couple things about this one, right? This is a run back from beginner bracket.
Yep.
Is it not? Yeah. So, not only is One Bin 3-0 in Daisuke's backyard with a win over Senior Children and 2 mirror match wins, one over Ghost Steer, the other over Sturban. So he is undefeated. He also defeated Grace to graduate. He's the only person who has won 2 beginner brackets.
Yep.
So,
and I mean, since then, right? Like One Bin has a pretty commanding dub over Uppercat in that beginner bracket. That beginner bracket was like a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that year,
like the second one, right?
Yeah. In that year, Uppercat has become a monster, like a legit monster. She murdered her best friend in the Caliburst Rivals.
3-0.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now, while Uppercat has been putting in that work and leveling up, One Bin got a new job. One Bin hasn't been on deck as often. We've seen him put on a good show here and there when he shows up. Shout outs to One Bin for graduating Caliburst intermediate bracket last month on 0 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
But it's it's been a while since these two have clashed, especially with eyes on them, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, this is so I remember the lead up to Rivals was we got that great promo from Irene and Grace, and Irene said it best, right? She didn't feel like they were ready, and now she knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know Grace is ready. Like Grace definitely has come a very long way, right? Um, we saw the intro where she was willing to kill Micah just to prove the chip was now hot. Like, what's that about, right? Like, it's like one bit whoever, right? Like, I remember, like, we were all popping off because everyone was like, you got to remember this moment, right? Like, we're all cheering for our new people, but the second they reach there, we're like, God, I hate this character, right? And Eno is
Mm-hmm.
that character.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You're just like, oh, you're doing so great, you're doing so great, and then you got Bodger who's just like, don't cheer for that, it's a throwaway, right? And that's where we're at right now, right? Like, we're so happy that all our players are at the point where we can show them off, and now we got Eno. We
Yep.
got this character that now you all know why we hate Eno, right? Like, you see what we had. You see all the people who used to play against Nuclear Provide. Now you see, you know what I mean? Like, you see what Eno is capable of. The script is right. Eno's pretty rare up here. Grace is pretty much our only Eno now, right? Like, the other two people who had Eno experience basically left the state, right? We lost Hano and we lost Nuclear Provide, so it's gonna be difficult for one bit to find an Eno training partner, right?
Well,
Um,
so this is interesting because I have seen both of them in separate practice sessions.
yes, I've heard about this.
With the same person. If you can't find an Eno main or an Eno secondary, your next best practice partner is random select specialist. So the homie Singa has stepped up and was giving matchup practice to both of them, which is going to be really interesting. I don't know how Singa's Eno is personally, but there is some stylistic differences between Enos, but some of it is just adjusting yourself to the general difference in play, right? Learning how to block differently, learning the risk reward on like mashing tech, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, while One Bin has a limited practice partner pool to choose from, he does have two characters on deck, right? Both Sin and Chip have given him dubs in tournaments and in casuals all over the place. Yep. Right. And yeah, go ahead.
Our exhibitions too.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
And both of them are very different and very funky matchups for Eno, right? Mm-hmm. Sin has the advantage of big buttons, right? He has super confirmable damage that he can get from pretty far across the screen. All he has to do is make you run into a beak driver or bull bash or something, and
you're one touch away from being dead at any given moment.
Yeah, even 6P, like, Sin's buttons are just going to cover a lot of important space that Eno really needs to control if she wants to get things going, right? Mm-hmm. Chip, meanwhile, not only Chip doesn't have to care about some of Eno's tools completely, right? Teleport means that he can usually get around a note in mid-screen, right? Yep. He can actually run under HCL a lot of the time. And Chip's buttons are actually also pretty good at just giving Eno a wall that she has to deal with somehow, right? Obviously, he's like, he's built like paper, so the moment he gets knocked down, he gets mixed, he dies, right? But that's never scared One Bin in the past. He actually has a pretty daring Chip, all things considered.
Yeah. The thing about this matchup, it's pretty clear no matter what character we're going to see before us, right? Whoever gets knocked down, your life is basically over. Mm-hmm. Like, it does not matter. Like, Eno is that character. Literally does not matter if she is still moving. You are one knockdown away from death.
Yep.
She's like the only character that we know of that basically, like, the burst is holding her back, right? Because then you can start doing all that crazy, like, triangle BS without worrying that you're gonna accidentally burst, right? So it's gonna come down to ultimately who can finish off their opponent, right? Because all these characters, you're just one touch away, and it's over, right? And it's both ways, right? You could be winning really hard. Next thing you know, you let Sin hit you, you're dead, right? Mm-hmm. You could be doing the same, right? Eno knocks you down, it's over. Chip can definitely do the same, and this is one of those ones, right? It could go 3-0, it could go 3-2. We don't know,
Yeah.
right?
It's even not counting like the character matchups, the player matchup is actually really interesting here because uh both of them have shown us some really we'll say hot and cold moments in
Yeah,
tournament, right? Like both of them, when they're on, they're fucking on. When Uppercat is in murder mode, like you don't she doesn't leave it until there's nothing left to murder. You remember the
yeah,
way that she almost ran through the entire carpool from hell
yeah,
in the reverse run back, right? She almost did that shit. We almost got we've seen One Bin like get super close to a bunch of different upsets. He's always been super tight in the show match game, right? His mental game is pretty strong. But all it takes is one of them just slightly on tilt, one of them a little bit not under prepared for the match, and you can
right.
see that shit start to crumble.
Yeah. Like, don't forget, right? It was like One Bin was down 2-0 in his very first one. He ran it all the way
Mm-hmm.
back. So, he's no stranger to being, back against the wall. And it's the same with Grace, like you
Yeah.
mentioned in the team exhibition, right? Team 7 was down to just her, right? And then she started running through everybody. So it's just, whoever's feeling it that day, at that
Yep.
moment, and can close it out.
God damn. So the undercard for this is already going to be hype as fuck. But our
Yeah,
co-main
yeah.
event, let's be honest, our co-main
Ooh,
event could have been
main event.
it could have been a main event for literally any Caliburst card.
Yep.
The only reason that we're running this shit as a co-main event is one, because I got to get these two in front of y'all at some point, right? It's been a minute.
Yeah.
We haven't had
Yeah, it's
Effortless
been
and
a while.
Caliburst, and we haven't had GC Yoshi since like January.
Yep.
But because we wanted to make this as stacked as possible a card for y'all before the weekend of Strive's release. And so GC Yoshi versus Effortless, we got arguably one of the strongest bedman players in the world, absolutely one of NorCal's top 3, historically, versus
Three Kings.
one of NorCal's most slept on players. Like Effortless and Pepsi are two players who just have never gotten the like international attention that they deserve. And so I'm super stoked to be able to get this match together. I didn't think it was going to happen, but both of them said they're down to do it. So we in there.
Yeah, so we know GC Yoshi 0-1 right now in Daisuke's backyard. Lost to Cam, but Jason got that run back, right? And
Yep.
pretty much beat Cam, the WNFs. They ran into each other again. And this is also a run back that we see quite a bit. So the last time these two played was a WNF, and I believe Josh took that one.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, on the offline, Anime Ascension, right?
Yep.
GC Yoshi took that, but Effortless got sent to losers, and then he ran through Red Herb. He beat Loxin, right, in top 8, and then eventually lost a very close one to Daymendou. So these two are definitely two of our strongest. And like you said, right, Josh is one of those guys that does not get the respect that he deserves. Multiple top 8s at majors. Pretty much was like, I think he came second in his pool at Arc Revo. It's like this is he's no joke, right? He's been basically winning outside of the marriage one that Pepsi won, and I think the CTL felt like 6-0. He's basically won the rest of these like WNS pretty handedly.
Yeah.
Right. He makes it look so easy, so effortless.
Yeah. Josh has been making this look pretty easy lately. But brackets are brackets, For one, Jason hasn't been entering in a little while. And for two, like we've said this time and time again, preparing for a match is different. When you go into a tournament bracket, and Effortless is in there, you might not be thinking about him yet. You might be thinking about all the other people that stand between you and that winner's final shot or whatever.
Exactly, yeah.
So again, we don't know how these two are going to prepare for each other. There isn't any, there are no nearby Johnnies that are going to be as good as Effortless for practice. And it's arguably far worse for Bedman and trying to practice against that one, right?
Right, exactly. These two, I think it's pretty clear, right? Like, their prep is pretty much. I think their prep is pretty much just going to be looking back at the times they've played each other, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Jason, like, more than like, even if Jason played a character that was more like abundant in
Yeah.
any region, he plays characters so differently than everybody else, right? He's really good at expressing himself through the characters he plays, right? And that's very difficult to game plan for. But
Yep.
if anyone is going to be able to game plan for something like that, it is Josh. Effortless is just, he's so good at understanding the game, understanding the situation, and then taking full advantage of it, right? Like, it's just like he's definitely one of our strongest minds
Yep.
when it comes to this game.
And it's actually interesting you bring that up, because one of the other confounding factors about basing our predictions off Wednesday night fights is uh, playing these characters is mentally exhausting, right?
Mm-hmm.
For different reasons, but they're both a lot of work. Bedman in particular, like, if you see the amount of movement that Jason puts in with Bedman, and all the like preemptive screen control he does in order to start running his game, like, that is incredibly costly. When it takes us 2 hours or so to run a bracket, he's sitting around in between matches getting cold, and then boom, we put him up against someone else. Like, there's a lot of mental attrition where, and by the time you start getting into the top 4, right, where you have multiple first to 3 sets, like, that can wear you down. But in this case, they're coming off fresh, right? They, they
Yes.
won't have been playing a whole bunch of games before that. So
Right.
we get to see what they're like at full potential. And frankly, even though Johnny is at like by far the big tier advantage in this matchup,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
the thing about Johnny is that he has a hard time dealing with pressure. His tools for getting out of bad situations and back to neutral are not that great. And
Right.
Bedman can start his zoning, right? He can start his pressure from the other side of the fucking screen.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's pretty difficult, like, for most characters to hunt like Bedman down,
Mm-hmm.
but Johnny's got like non-traditional movement, right? So it's not going to be the easiest thing either, right? You got Zwei,
Yep.
but like he could just like go all over the place, set up as many things. He can just hang out on a part of a screen you basically cannot touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. This is I fully expect this one to go the distance, right?
Yep.
These two have played each other so many times over the years, and it is amazing every time they play each other. And I'm so excited for, like, anybody who's stumbling upon us for the first time to
Yep.
see like this matchup that we used to get to see for free all the time in person.
Yeah, it's some of this is like, oh, this is just a NorCal Dogfights top 4, you know.
Exactly, right. That's basically the main event right now, right? If you told me a year ago that this was like NCD whatever month, right? I'd be like, yeah, of course.
Yep.
Like, like, oh, maybe Pepsi didn't show up that week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's another person we'd add to the mix all the time. But yeah, these are our best, and this, you and I, we love showing our people off to the rest of the world.
And there is no one who we could show off harder with than
Yep.
CT Warrior, fresh off a
Yes.
win over Pepsi of Nazareth, a nail biter 3-2 victory, earning that title shot to take on the vampire himself, Daymendou.
Yeah, 5-4 all the way last round,
Oh
right?
yeah, thank you. 5-4. Yep.
That was insane. Like, I like just watching that in real time was like, this is what NorCal Gear is all about, right? Like, we
Mm-hmm.
got two guys that Pepsi considers CT one of his biggest rivals, right? And Pepsi's never one to back down. He's always really good when he knows who's in front of him, right? He's always really good. So he
Mm-hmm.
didn't give CT any quarter on that, right? And
Yep.
CT same. He threw out every character. We saw all three of them.
That's right.
We started off with the Soul, then we moved to the Kai, and then we got the Elfeld, and each one of them just chipped away at Pepsi, and eventually, CT clutched it out. And his reward is his training partner, Daymendou, right? Like, this is like when Peter went on that crazy run, at Arc Revo. Like he did that thank you like string of tweets, right? To all the
Yep.
people, he appreciated in the community. And like CT Warrior was like one of the first people, right? Like he always like credits CT as the guy that he always trains with, right? And
I mean,
these
look,
two,
whenever you go to Game Center, CT Warrior's there. He's off
yep,
labbing something. It might not
yeah,
be Guilty Gear. He might be
might be
playing
thinking
fucking
actually,
Tekken or
yeah,
ABK or whatever, right? But he's always there. He plays everything. He's always grinding shit. He's always got new grips. He's always got new shit. Like he is the consummate competitive player, right?
yeah. Like we know, right? He plays so many games. Like we already mentioned Tekken. Sometimes it's the BlizzCon, Melty. Like he's a very well-rounded anime player. DFCI also, I believe he won that at Anime Ascension. So it's like
Goddamn.
CT Warrior, right? It's not just the three characters, right? He's
Yeah.
got fundamentals across all these different anime games, right? Not all of them are air dashers. Some of them are a little bit more ground based. Some of
Yeah.
them aren't even anime.
Yeah,
Tekken,
anime
right?
games like Tekken.
Exactly, right? My favorite anime game, and that's you know being able to trade with somebody like that, right? It's just like crazy, right? Like you get a whole rainbow of experience. But just because they're like best friends doesn't mean they won't like go after each other, right? Like that's what the rivals card was about, right?
Yep.
You may be my best friend, but I'm gonna make sure you know that I am the superior friend in this current situation. So
Yep.
this is for the title, right?
That's right.
It's a first to 5. I'm sure these guys have run first to hundreds until the sun came out, but I think this is the first time we're going to be able to see something like this on a big stage, right?
Yeah. And like, here's the thing, like historically in tournament, this has gone Daymendou's way more often than not. That's no surprise to anybody. That's true for literally everyone in Northern California.
Exactly. Yeah.
But CT has a couple advantages here. One, he's generally been far more active in Exerd than Daymendou has, just over the last year or so, right?
Sure.
Peter's been playing, but he's been playing a lot of people. Kevin Tog is asking, what about Bears? Daymendou beats Bears like 2-1 in tournament.
Yeah. Usually Bears does better at like majors, but like at every dogfight it's pretty much always Peter.
Yeah. So while Peter is undeniably, like there's a reason that he returns to Caliburst like every 6 months, right? Like a fucking like Dracula looking for the newest Belmont.
You must be the Belmont.
Yeah. But the fact is, Peter has not been as active in Exerd. He hasn't been competing as much. We got to see him play Pepsi, and then we got to see him at Frosty Faustings play the exhibition against GC Yoshi, but we haven't actually gotten to see him play that much in Wednesday night fights. We haven't, I don't see him net playing that often. He does mess around in Plus R and other games as well. He's been an active player, but he hasn't really been grinding Rev 2 that much. CT he's been putting in work. He enters Wednesday night fights almost every week. The other thing is, so the combo breaker matches were pre-taped by about, I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks, right? So CT is actually known that he's been aiming to take on Daymendou since like late April. He has, I don't know how much of the time he spent, but he absolutely has the advantage of prep time. I don't know if CT told Daymendou that he would be playing, but at the very least, I never told Peter who he was playing. So there is entirely a possibility in which CT has actually been putting in work, low key in the background for a minute because he's ready to take Daymendou on. I don't know how much prep he's going to have, but look, he's got 3 characters, all of whom can play effectively against Slayer.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing that we always got to remember, right? Is that CT has all these top tier characters, right? Like, with the exception of maybe Soul, most people don't consider Soul top tier, but his Soul is pretty strong too, right? And you can never sleep on the Yelfeld, you can never sleep on the Kaiki skate, right? And CT is just so comfortable with all of these characters. You don't know, right? Like sometimes we see all 3 of these characters when we see like winners and grand finals and losers finals with CT, right? But this is the first to 5. This is gonna be so much more extra room. So it's like not just who is he feeling that day, but who's he feeling that moment, right?
Yep.
Like, what does he notice for Peter's patterns? And with with all these options, it makes it difficult for Peter to really like remember. Oh, I have to remember that. Not just that this interacts with Slayer in this way, but like CT interacts with that character in this way, right? That's something that just you gotta know on the fly, right?
Yeah.
And
No one plays like CT.
Nope, nobody does. Right?
Even if you look at like the character matchups, no one has the same responses, the same reflexes, the same thought patterns. Like I said it before and I'll say it again, CT Warrior is my favorite Guilty Gear player. Because I love to see, like he always shows me how he thinks about the game just by the way he plays it, right? It's going to be incredible. I played Daymendou in a long set last weekend and he beat me 35-0. So we'll see. We'll see what the fuck happens.
So we know who Pat's rooting for. This is how we know we're not WWE, right? We're not gonna see somebody run in, knock Daymendou out, and hand CT the title, a la like WrestleMania X7.
And look, the title set is going to be dope. But even if you look at the co-main, right, GC Yoshi and Effortless, like. Obviously, these two are primed to be the next challenger.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Whoever wins this, I don't know who I'll be able to pair them up with and be like, oh, that'll be a good title eliminator. We might just have to make that in the next title shot because there aren't that many other players at that level in NorCal, right? So whoever wins it is going to be sitting pretty. If they're not about to hit a title shot, they'll be close to it. But whoever loses is also going to be in a really interesting position because now we get to put them in the position of gatekeeping some of the hungry up and comers that you've seen in previous Caliburst cards, and there's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them, right? We did say whoever won between Sows and Senior Children would be someone we want waiting in the wings. We had Tom take it over, Adapt, right?
Yep.
Like we have so many people. Like if we ever get Wabbit or like Popering back in the mix, right?
Yep.
Like there are plenty of hungry. Pepsi could show us something. We're like, you know what? You want another redemption shot? We got you, right?
Mm-hmm. Even actually, Babalu just hit me up, letting me know, yo, I think I might be down to get back in the Caliburst mix. I was like, ooh, all right.
There's a lot of people waiting in the wings, and right now we're showing you who is currently, our top 4 people or so, and what a way to send just a hey, don't forget about us, right?
Right. Yeah, this is going to be a celebration of Rev 2. I'm sure we'll have it all. We'll have some YRC, we'll have some Danger Time, we'll probably have some shitty netcode moments, maybe a lobby malfunction or two, but we in there, baby.
CT Warrior show up randomly in the middle of someone else's match.
That's right. All right, someone can hit the CT Warrior voice clip. But that's what's up. Aaron.
CT Warrior.
There we go.
CT Warrior.
Thank you, Aaron. You got anything else?
Nothing else. Rev 2.
CT Warrior. I didn't put a cooldown on that shit. Fuck. All right. I'll have to fuck with the soundboard later. Anyway.
CT Warrior. All the weeks back from Pat the Flip stream. CT Warrior.
I'm glad y'all are having fun with that. Aaron, thank you so much for coming through and doing the preview stream as always.
Always a pleasure, Pat. I'll see you on Wednesday.
Peace out, man. Thanks for coming. All right. Shouts to Aaron one more time. Always comes through for the preview card. We have so much fun hyping up the NorCal Guilty Gear fam. That's what the fuck is up.